Hi friends, in our time together today, I'm introducing the popular march, the Minstrel Boy. There are so many popular tunes, just hard to decide which one to do next. And so I often default to something you all have asked that we do, and a number of folks have asked for this one, so we're going to dive right into it. I'll walk us through the tune. I'll go slowly through the phrases of the tune, and then in the play along with Scott's section, I'll just play it straight so that you have the opportunity to really learn the core of the tune. We'll talk about any difficulties I think you might experience. I'll share some ornamentation and expression ideas, and we'll talk about the history of the tune that we know. And I'll put a link at the top of the notes to this video to the page on my website from which you could download the music and tabs, as usual, if you use those. I was quite fascinated when I was copying out transcriptions to provide for the tune, that for the most part, for a really old tune, there's a great deal of consistency between the settings that people share. And so I was really kind of happy about that. Surprise, surprise. And even consistent from a variety of traditional tune websites, especially something that's been popular kind of the world over. So that's pretty cool. I'm tempted to jump to the history, but I'm saving that. So let me walk through the different phrases of the tune. And I'll stand so you can watch my hands and learn that. Remember, the idea is, particularly if you're learning the tune by watching and listening, that you pay attention, and I go very slowly, and you can pick up the phrasing that way. Even if you use the music, I encourage you to do that. It's a good discipline to learn. And the syncopation and the rhythms and phrasings of tune often differ from what you might interpret on the page. All the more reason why this is important. So, the opening phrase, I'll play this through just so that you hear it, and then we're going to walk through it. The opening phrase, there's a step-in note, and then okay, now it's a shorter tune. That phrase appears 3 times in the tune. So we're going to walk through that phrase first, and then I'll walk through the next phrase you'll need to know. And if you learn these 2 phrases and you learn the sequence, you know the tune. So here's that first phrase, slower pace, broken into pieces. All right, that phrase is then repeated, and then the next phrase comes in, and then that first phrase is repeated again at the end. You'll get some altering step in and step out transitional notes, but that's 3/4 of the tune you just learned. So here is the other phrase you need to know, and I'll use the step in note. And as usual, I'm using chapters so that you can go back and forth. So again, like I said, go through those 2 phrases. You nail those 2 phrases, you know the tune. So now I'll go through the play along with Scott section, where I'm going to play the entire tune at a steady, slightly faster pace so that you can play it along with me. And today I'm using my Howard low D with the balanced head. All right, that is the Play Along with Scott section, my friends. So again, come back and play it with me as many times as you need to so that you get the core of that tune into your hands and heart and head. So anyway, let's think through difficulties. I feel like the tune flows pretty well. So I think once you get the rhythm, you get the feel of the rhythm, that won't be a challenge. You are going to have to play to the second octave G. One challenge I think you may find is transitioning out of that second bit back into the first to close the tune out. You're going from the second octave G, dropping an octave. Sometimes it's easier to do an octave jump upwards. Sometimes we don't practice going down, so practice going down as well. And what you may find is instead of going, work on playing it without stopping your breath. There's a good exercise to do. I'd not thought of doing that one for us before. You might see that coming up soon. So, or if that's a challenge for you, then do a little pause, and that'll be easier for you. But please experiment with that. It's smoother. This is a march, and it's a smooth tune. Though, interestingly, when you get into some ornamentation and expression ideas, like, I don't think there are really tons of other troubles. March, so tone quality is always a concern. But when you get into ornamentation and expression, remember, it is a march. It's not like a driving march. It's a little smoother. I have heard some people, instead of playing, they'll syncopate it in what they feel like is a little more marchy, and I've heard this done. So you could do that if you want. But again, use ornamentation and expression's important here, because the tune, once we talk about the history, the tune has some emotion tied to it. So you want to be able to do some volume changes. You want to slide to some notes. You really want to kind of be expressive in it. In a couple of days, as I always do, well, almost always, I'm going to play through the tune as an example of what I'm currently feeling in playing the tune. So that'll be a lot of fun. So let's transition now. I want to think through the history of the tune because we know a little bit more about this one. There was an old Irish air called the Moreen. Old enough that we don't have 18th century recordings of it. But since it was an air, it wasn't necessarily played as a march. And I've actually heard some people play it more as an air. And yeah, the version I heard, they actually were that labored in the slide up to the G. But I'm sure you could do a lot of fun with it. And I'll mess around with that myself. I don't know if I'll share that in my practice session, but it's kind of fun. So anyway, the Moreen was a very popular air, apparently, back in the very early 19th century. Which really means, since it was popular then, that means that the Moreen was popular at least back in the latter half of the 18th century, because there was a transcription of it at the beginning of the 19th century. And if it was one that somebody felt was popular enough and nice enough to transcribe, then that means it had history before that. Then the Irish poet Thomas Moore wrote a poem called The Minstrel Boy. Now, please go to your favorite web browser and look up lyrics for The Minstrel Boy. I won't include them in the notes to this video because you can look them up anywhere. There are 2 verses, and we'll talk about the content of those lyrics in a minute. A 3rd verse was added during the American Civil War. Because it is said that a lot of Irish people were coming into the U.S. and some of them joined the armies, particularly representing the North, I think, because those are areas where they came mainly. And this song became very popular. So obviously it came with them and became very popular. So Thomas Moore joined his poem with the Moreen tune in 1813. Moore is the one who said that he used the tune. So that means Moore was 23, 24 years old when he connected his poem and the tune. That gives you an idea of his age at the time. See, Thomas Moore the Irish poet Thomas Moore was only 19 years old when the 1798 rebellion took place, and he had friends in the rebellion. He was pursuing academics. He was going to be the writer-poet rebel, and they were more activist rebels. And after the rebellion, he became one of the leading voices speaking out against those oppressing the Irish people. And he wrote a number of poems in honor of those who died in the rebellion. And this one is, The Minstrel Boy, is said to be in honor of his friends who died in the rebellion. Moore crafted a variety of Irish poems and melodies that speak of Irish culture, pride, nationalism, and courage. So the boy's task, you're going to the lyrics. You can read this for yourself, but I just want to highlight it. So the boy's task was a minstrel, and that means, so he was playing a harp and he's singing for the soldiers, and obviously the Irish soldiers, and he would accompany them. And I don't think he would actually go, the minstrel boy, younger, probably, I don't know how old, guess, but he wouldn't go into battle, but he would be the minstrel playing and singing. And his father died in a battle. And so he must have had like a strap for his harp. So you're thinking like, a harp you could carry and sing with. Strapped it on, put it behind him, ran and grabbed his father's sword and dashed into the battle with his father's sword. And unfortunately, he died. And so the song is about this boy. And then before he dies, he breaks his own harp because he said that, I find my notes on that, he broke the instrument so that the enemy couldn't play it, because such songs and instruments are for the free, and Ireland should be the land of the free. It's very moving and heartfelt. It's a beautiful poem. And so you could play it as a straight march. Or you could even slow it down. And I may do this, I'll experiment, but we'll see what I do in a couple of days. I don't know where I'll go with it. I'll try that out, and we'll see what I share in a couple of days. My friends, this is such a fun tune. I know you're going to love it. You're going to have so much fun playing the Minstrel Boy. It's a delight. If you've enjoyed the video, please like it so that YouTube lets other folks know our community exists. And if you're brand new checking us out, please subscribe. We'd love to have you. And if you have played this song before, please add some comments on when you learned it, how you learned it, what your favorite instrument is to use in playing it. Until next time, this is Scott Shade. Happy whistling, my friends.